Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. X-Men and Fantastic Four, issue number 2 of 4. This is exactly as good as everybody expected it to be. Here's the one problem. Don't try and look for any good guys here, because you're not really going to find them. I mean, unless you really, really want them to be good guys, then I guess you can lie to yourself, convince yourself that there's a good guy someplace in this, but there are no good guys on either side here, man. This is really bad. And this is what happens when people just don't listen. This issue is called Broken Borders. Chip Zdarsky is the writer. Terry Dodson is on pencils. Rachel Dodson with Carl Story and Ransom Getty doing the inks. Color art is by Laura Martin. And VC's Joe Caramagna on letters. Jeez. Terry Dodson did the covers, and Rachel Dodson also did the cover. The Dodsons did the cover. Anyway. There's some variant covers out there too. Carlos Lau on production, and Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. So anyway, Doom has his own problems. He's got mutants on his island. That's right, Doom has an island. There's a very cool name for it. It's called Doom Island. Gee, who didn't see that coming? And anytime that he doesn't want to deal with problems that would affect Latveria, he goes to Doom Island instead, because this way he could just kick butt and take names. Awesome. In this particular case, he's transferred all of the mutants, and he calls them genetically superior people. Dude, Doom knows how to talk to people and schmooze them over, you know? He's got a plan. It's a nefarious plan. But he knows how to schmooze some people over. And Kitty's still young, you know what I'm saying? Like in this particular case, I'm sure that Zdarsky's going to do something cool with Kitty. But for now, she really is young and gullible. She's also dead, according to the Marauders. But, you know, whatever. There's a little bit out of continuity. Anyway, the timeline is a little off. So by the end of this comic book, again, no spoilers. This is not what I do. Wait until my Thursday night, aka Friday morning at midnight Eastern Standard Time, live spoiler reviews for all of the Dawn of X books. There'll be one video where I get to interact with you guys, tell you all the spoilers and show you the cool stuff inside, and you get to be like, what about this part? Hey, what about that? And, you know, you can add your 2 cents and whatnot. The piggy bank's open. You can add as many 2 cents as you want. So I'm not going to spoil the end of this, but what I will say is, oh, Doom, you are a straight up evil son of a gun. Wow, really? Really? Oh, and your face on them too? Oh, come on. Oh, this is so wrong. You want mutants to hate you? This is exactly how you do it. Damn, that was just wrong. Anyway, the Fantastic Four are not above invading the sovereignty of another nation. They've done it often, particularly with Latveria, but any place else too. They'll invade another nation. They literally have 2 squirts to care. And they invade Krakoa in the way that every single one of us expected was going to happen. Now, there's a really interesting, weird kind of way for Sue Storm to be woken up from what happened, but everything in this book happened in a really cool way. There was a very cool fight, and showing the power level of Sue Storm just by name alone was freaking fantastic. All that being said, yes, I do believe the Fantastic Four have the ability to take on the mutants of Krakoa and be okay. There's also a way, if you can stand counting little tiny dots and multiplying them by 50, you can tell how many mutants are on the island. But one of the cool things is you can also tell how many Omega level mutants are on the island. That's something special. So when push comes to shove, I enjoyed the heck out of this comic book because it had a lot to offer. A really good battle. You get to see Scott trying to do negotiations, and Sue wasn't handling it very well because her kids are missing. They don't believe the X-Men. That's what's really messed up here. They don't believe the X-Men. Everybody here is an aggressor. Make no mistake about that. Fantastic Four, in this particular case, they really did step over the line, though. Let's just be realistic. I said that there weren't any good guys here. I did not say that there weren't worse guys. So the FF really screwed up. And I know some people are going to be like, Yeah, but what would you do to save your kids? Yeah, that was already mentioned in here. Believe me, every single person thought about what they would do to save their own kids. The question is it really a saving? And the idea of, oh, you're so racist, you X-Men, Sue Storm's saying this. Again, her kids are gone. She doesn't know what happened to them, but they ran away, and she's not very good with accepting responsibility or blaming who actually matters, and that's Reed Richards. He's the 100% fault for all of this. It doesn't matter if the X-Men came coming. If Reed wasn't a liar, if Reed wasn't so shifty, none of this would have happened. Remember Civil War? Yeah. So Ben's the only one who's really calling them out. Johnny a little bit, but I mean, when push comes to shove, man, Sue Storm calling the X-Men racists. So, one, I'm going to compare the X-Men moving to their own island and only accepting their own for actual citizenship and residency, akin to Israel. Okay, people who've been pushed around their whole lives, not just their whole lives, but every generation, right? Never had a safe place to go. Finally found a safe place to go, and it's a place that they feel biblically they're supposed to be at. Okay. Opinions on whether they belong there or not really what I'm here to argue. But is it a little racist to suggest only mutants can stay on Krakoa? Yes. Yes, it is. There's not just racial overtones. That is a part of racism. Is it the definition of racism? No. But it is a part of racism. Let's just be honest with ourselves here. Is it wrong? That is where you get into ethics. Because there are arguments on both sides, and both extremely valid. Is it racist or not? Either way, if it is a sovereign territory and you invade that sovereign territory, even looking for your kids, you basically just start an international incident. Now, what the X-Men could do to really mess with the Fantastic Four is to say that, you know what? We're not going to go after you, Reed. We're not going to go after you guys. No. Instead, what we're going to do is we are going to stop selling or giving these drugs to America until your government turns you over. Yeah. At the very least, face accusations before the world nation because you just invaded foreign soil. If this wasn't a comic book and it wasn't all about punching people in the face, stop for a second and think about what a big deal that would be. You have literally just created a genuine international incident. Your GDP will now be affected, your gross domestic product. The transfer of funds, trade negotiations, all the free stuff, the handouts that we give you. You have just endangered all of them because you decided to falsely go after your son. What's funny about that is the claim of racism. Also attacking them. It's like once you got discovered, when Magneto found out that these guys were there, oh, that was a great scene. That was a great scene. I can't wait to talk about that in the spoiler review. Anyway, the idea that Sue would call them racist. When you're upset, you're likely to say a lot of things that you might regret later. In this particular case, I'm hoping that she regrets calling the X-Men racist. Because, yes, there is certainly a lot of bigotry there, a lot of bias there, a lot of racism there. You're going to call it what it is. But at the end of the day, could it somehow be a little bit, if not justified and not warranted, could at least be understood? Because there is also such a thing as anti-racism, as opposed to not being racist. Not being racist is you don't do anything that's racist. But anti-racist is you will try to stop someone who is actively being racist at the moment. You will endanger yourself either physically or more specifically, hopefully, just simply emotionally. Because you will say, hey, that's racist. You stop doing that right now. You know, I'm going to go and make a complaint. Something like that. That's very different. So there's racism. There's not being racist. And then there's anti-racism. So by all means, please, when were the Fantastic Four ever non-racist? More specifically, anti-racist. They weren't. So it's hard for you to start pointing fingers when realistically all you've ever done was stay out of the way. But when you stay out of the way, you're allowing bad people to do bad things to good people. This doesn't help the victim when you stay out of the way. What you're arguing is you're not contributing to the problem. You're not making the problem worse, because you're sure as hell not making the problem better. And that's the difference between racism, non-racism, and anti-racism. And the Fantastic Four in this particular case are technically non-racist. And they don't get to have a high ground in this particular case to claim that somebody else is racist. Because allowing the wrongs that have happened to the X-Men to happen, sometimes you're a part of the problem by being able to stop something and not doing it, for whatever reason it was. I would love if this comic book answered why that happened. Because Captain America's excuse seemed a little weak, but at least it was an excuse. We were staying out of your way back in the AVX books. And Scott had a right to also still be upset about that. But at the end of the day, the X-Men are a completely separate entity, so there will never be a positive excuse for that. They have their own editor, right? And the editors of the X-Men have synonymously been known for wanting the X-Men to be separate from everybody else's affairs. So if anything, that's the guy you blame. But when you have to look at it in comic book terms, it's a lot harder to do. That's a whole lot harder to explain, right? So you got to take the real world politic or agenda of keeping the X-Men separate from the rest of the Marvel Universe for the most part. Their events are very different from everybody else's events, and they'll very rarely ever really cross over, you know? But then to actually try and justify it in comic book continuity, those are really hard to do. But we've had the argument from the Avengers, from Captain America specifically. I'd really like to know what the argument is from the X-Men, or excuse me, from the Fantastic Four. That's something I look forward to. I hope that we get it. I hope that's in the cards. Anyway, guys, if a video shows up at the end of this, an ad shows up at the end of this, please watch it, even if, or at least please let it play, even if it's in another window, because that's the only way that we get paid. Turn the phone sideways, hit like and the bell. Love you guys. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.